Holy Father, we thank you for this morning and this beautiful day and this opportunity just to live on this earth and fellowship with others and serve you and fulfill the Great Commission. We thank you for your wisdom and justice, your guidance, your peace, and your mercy. And we ask you to pour all of that out in abundance on each of us today and every day. Thank you for this opportunity and this responsibility that this commission has to serve the people of Montgomery County. We know that you put leaders in place, so you have put us here for such a time as this to make sure we make the decisions led by you, guided by you, and honoring you. Thank you, Father, for each person here, their families. Everybody has a burden. Everybody has something going on physically, spiritually, intellectually, emotionally. Every single person in this room is suffering with something this morning, Father, and I ask that you just pour your spirit out across this room. Pour your spirit out on each situation, each person, each family member that they are praying for, each circumstance, each financial circumstance, each physical circumstance, the doctor report that they just got. Father, I just pray that you just pour yourself out on each person here today. We thank you for your power. We thank you for your presence. Amen.
Amen.
Good morning. Our visitors today are Chief Deputy Sheriff Kevin Murphy. Sheriff Cunningham is out of town. We'll hear from County Engineer George Speak, our County Attorney Michael Armistead, lobbyist Cassandra Crosby and Ron Drinkard, the Executive Director Kim Hobbs with the Central Alabama Fair Housing Center, Dr. Jay Coleman with the Lazarus House, and President and CEO Jana Bailey from River Region United Way. The items that we will consider during the formal session: alcohol license application for a special event at Latino Festival. Consider board member reappointment to the Pike Road Volunteer Fire Protection Authority. Consider board member reappointment to the Pilgrim Providence Water and Fire Protection Authority. Consider board member reappointment to the Quint Mar Water Authority. Consider board member reappointment to the South Montgomery Fire Protection and Rescue Squad. Consider a grant application to the American Association of Retired Persons. Consider an architectural agreement with Barganier Davis and Williams to provide design services for the rebuilding of the Flatwood Community Center. Consider a memorandum of agreement for Helping Montgomery Families Initiative. Consider membership dues to the Montgomery Area Business Committee for the Arts. Consider miscellaneous appropriations to agencies. Consider miscellaneous appropriations to education. Consider miscellaneous appropriations from designated revenue. Consider a budget change request number 2 for appraisal. Consider budget change request number 6 for engineering. Consider budget change request number 1 for grants administration. Consider position fill requests for the Board of Registrars. Consider a position fill request for the District Attorney's Office for an Assistant Records Coordinator. Consider a position fill request for the Youth Detention Facility for an Administrative Support Specialist. Consider position fill requests for the Sheriff's Office for an Administrative Support Specialist, a Deputy Sheriff Corporal, a Deputy Sheriff Trainee, and a Public Safety Communications Officer, And consider travel training requests for appraisal, engineering, finance, risk management, and tax and audit.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I just had a question about the budget change for engineering. We have small tools and mine equipment listed 3 times. Are those different accounts or different? Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you.
And that's all for the formal session. First, we will hear from Chief Deputy Murphy.
Make sure that mic is on, please.
How's that? Good. Sheriff Cunningham is in Washington, D.C. at the National Sheriff's Association. He's on one of the executive legislative board committees, so it is very imperative that he be there, and sends his regrets for not being able to attend this session.
He's gonna bring back any money?
He always does.
He does.
We can always hope.
I know before the commission is the proposal for adjustments in salaries for the detention facility. The sheriff has spoken to me and said that he has spoken to all of you about this. We're very confident that if it's passed, it will help us in retaining very qualified, very dedicated employees, but also recruiting excellent people as well.
Are you talking this morning specifically about the corrections portion of it?
Yes, sir. And the sheriff requested, if it pleases the commission, that we waive rules so this could get passed. We're going to go on a recruiting drive, try to recruit qualified people.
I don't know. Cheryl, have you had a chance to look at the impact, the budgetary impact of,
Good morning.
morning?
Overall, it would increase, it would be a budget increase because the youth facility positions weren't included on what you receive, about $1.2 million. I've talked to the sheriff, and that would be if we didn't change anything else. But we have a lot of unused, vacancies right now. The vacancies would cover the cost. We wouldn't have to do anything to the budget this year. For instance, last year, fiscal year '22, there was about unused $4 million of salary in the budget. I used $500,000 to cover the overtime, so it has been giving us, a surplus on those vacancies. So we're looking at removing positions. When we do the budget next year, we would remove some of those long-time vacant positions, so we wouldn't see such an impact. So actually funding for it is not a problem. I'm
So-
not sure, I think Carmen had mentioned last meeting that they were working on a pay plan adjustment, I assume, all pay plans, and I think that was gonna be ready in March.
Is
So I'm
Carmen
not
here
sure
today?
how that impacts it.
Yeah, because I'm interested, I understand that in addition to what the sheriff's doing, you're doing something for the overall program. How will that affect what we're trying to do with are they also included in your study, or is it two separate studies, or will they work together? How's that gonna work?
Good morning.
Morning.
We will present you all with several different options, but we are looking at the pay plans as a whole. We are also working with an outside consultant on it, so y'all will have several different options to look at as opposed to what you all would like to consider to implement.
So it also includes corrections and
Correct, it will. So you'll have several options to review and look at.
that makes it kind of difficult for us to, what do you guys think?
Carmen, when is the last time we reviewed and overhauled the pay plan?
10/1/21.
Mark is our comp and class manager. Actually, he'll be retiring at the end of the month. He's been with us 25 years, but it was 2019 when we did this study. 2019 is when we did the study.
So 2019 or 2021?
Well, we made changes, pretty big changes effective 10/1/21. That's when we had pretty big changes to all the pay plans.
When do you anticipate completing your study? I mean, there's a sense of urgency, it
It was
seems.
the entire,
This month, within
So it's compatible with what you're doing. In other words, what we're considering for the sheriff's department is not gonna be any drastic difference.
Drastic changes are not what we're gonna recommend, but what the recommendations that we made, we met with the sheriff, we had conversations with him, we came up with what we felt like would be a good starting wage for recruiting purposes, and then from there, we had to build upon what needed to be done for retention purposes. And basically what we did is we mirrored the process that we have in place right now for the deputy sheriffs.
Okay, so I'm understanding that whatever should we decide to move forward with what they're proposing, when you're done with yours, there won't be any huge conflict, because they've worked together. Okay. The only other thing, and I'm finished with it, the only other understanding, Chief, and it goes to what Sherrill has said, if you're gonna eliminate these jobs in order to cover these increases, then next year you can't come back and say, I need so-and-so, so-and-so. That job is gone. I've said that to the sheriff. That job is gone. We haven't used those jobs for years, is my understanding. So we're eliminating and we're taking that money and we're gonna put it toward increasing the pay of the corrections officers who desperately need it. I support it. I know they need it. I know we need that for recruitment purposes, but I want it understood that, it's gonna be difficult to come down here and ask for a new position when we're using those positions to make this happen.
Dan, just a little history on those positions. When we built the new jail, the budget was increased to staff it at full capacity. There's kind of always been an extra 20, maybe 25 correction officer positions. We would inactivate those, but if there ever came a time that the jail population increased, I think you would have to revisit. But, there's a lot of revenue that also comes in that,
Yeah.
It's trending right now that housing federal inmates is going to exceed 3 million. And, up substantially. That's almost double of what it was a couple years ago.
Well,
So,
it's
but
certainly
I'm
look at it.
working with them in they've got some associate positions that can probably come out of there. Overtime, we don't budget for that overtime because the vacancies cover it, so I can't remove that, but,
Well, certainly we'll reconsider, but this caution is to make sure that before you come here, you've really, really, really thought about it, because it's not gonna be a
Right.
cakewalk.
How
And
many
just-
positions will be completely eliminated?
I did an estimate if we removed, or inactivated 25
Oh,
corrections officers.
so
'cause
inactivate is
Inactivate.
the word
meaning
we're
we-
using, not removing.
And that's, overall, it looks like we can remove about that covers $1.5 million, and we're looking at $1.2 million, and then some for youth facility.
Carmen, explain to me again, what you going to present to us in March?
We're doing a pay plan evaluation.
That is in process now.
Correct. And it should be finished March 1. It's that March.
But then if we decided to act upon your recommendations, then we would likely infuse that into the new budget. So that would not be activated until fall.
Normally, when we do a pay plan, it's for the next year's budget.
Yeah.
And, I remember just the history on the corrections officer, that there was across the board 4% for corrections officers in 2018. And I believe their increase, we gave a 3% COLA in April of '21 and rolled that into an overall 14% increase as of 10/1. So those were the increases over the last couple of years.
So there have been, and that's my concern, and I expressed this last time. I felt that we were piecemealing things, and I don't like to do it that way. But also, just to reiterate, we have kept an eye on budgets and law enforcement budgets and different budgets, especially the ones that are highly competitive with other agencies in our city. So we have done that, correct? Over the past few years, you just got me to a 14% increase with your numbers.
In '21.
We have, but they're not able to do that. So hopefully by recruiting, being able to recruit more, reduce the number of hours that they work, and be able to have more, when I say hours that they work, within their work week, so they can have that more time off with that break in between, it will increase their work-life balance and help with retention. So we're trying to look at it on all facets, reduce the overtime, because of the nature of the work that they do, there has to be somebody there. So everybody is struggling with hiring in public safety right now. It's a nationwide issue.
Well, it is, no doubt. The past few years have been exceptionally difficult, and I certainly support, I certainly support this pay increase for corrections, and I don't support pay increases out of order, out of line like this very often, but in this case, I think it is very necessary.
So we're asking to waive rules today on that item. Is there any objection to waiving rules?
I have no objection.
No.
No objection? Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Oh, you got one more, I think, don't you? Got something else?
The contract for the housing the juveniles for Dallas County.
Yes, Dallas County Detention Facility was damaged in the tornado, and so we offered to house their inmates until they had repairs done, which I understand is going to take quite some time. The standard rate is the same that we charge for other counties.
How many are we expecting?
Yeah.
50.
How many?
50 inmates.
We have the capacity?
Not
Oh, yes,
at the juvenile.
No,
Not juvenile.
Juvenile, I'm
sorry.
talking about the juvenile part.
3 from Dallas County, my
Or
apologies.
just at the most 3?
Just 3.
So
at
we
the
can handle
current- Yeah, we have the space.
But he's asking that be a waive rule item, so there'll be a contract in place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any objection to waiving rules?
No objection.
Okay.
And the last item was selling decommissioned vehicles to Troy University Police Department. It's 2 cars.
Any questions on that? That'll be next agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Kevin.
George Speak.
Yeah, this is our future agenda item number 5. That's our 2023 County Road resurfacing project. Asphalt Contractors was a low bidder. It's 44 miles of road, and the cost was $4,471,000, low bidder, and which we thought was an exceptionally good price considering the fuel price. Oil and fuel prices have gone up.
Any
And
questions on that?
George, when you merge all of these different items together that you're purchasing, do you somehow eliminate the opportunities that small business or minority business might have to actually provide some of these services? When you merge them all together like that, of course, only people with the necessary financial strength can actually bid on these projects. So I'm just wondering, if you could separate some of that to allow more small business and minority business to participate.
I really don't know any way to separate it. You know, it's asphalt resurfacing work, but basically you got 3 asphalt companies, Mid-South, APAC, and Asphalt Contractors. That's the three bidders we normally get.
But it's not just asphalt, is it? Aren't there some other things, some other items that go along with the road paving?
I would say most of it's asphalt. And the shoulder work, they put stone on the shoulders.
Have you always done it that way, or is this something recently?
Yes, sir,
I remember
we've
the
been-
last contract, you merged it. but I
Yes,
didn't
sir,
think we
we've
had
been doing this, I've been here 26 years, we've done it.
Be next agenda.
Okay, thank you.
George.
We'll hear from Michael Armistead.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, according to the Alabama Code, Section 40-7-42 is amended. If there's a change in the tax rate for the county, then the commission is tasked with the responsibility of levying those tax rates for the current and upcoming years. You've got a resolution before you that was prepared by, in conjunction with attorneys for the Montgomery Public School System and Pike Road Schools, which reflect those change in tax levy or tax rates. I've read over, gone through, worked with these resolutions that you have. In my opinion, they currently properly reflect the correct tax rates to be levied for the upcoming tax year.
Any questions?
Mike, it's only when changes are made that we have to do this?
It changed back in 2014. 40-7-42 used to require that you had to do it by the first meeting or in the first meeting of every February.
Because I remembered when I first came on the commission, we were doing that.
Yes, sir.
Then all
You
of a
had to do
sudden-
that every year, but it changed, and you only have to do it in years wherein there is an
Where there's
actual
a change.
change to the tax rates. So, and now, instead of having to do it in the first meeting in February, you have to do it by the last meeting in February.
Okay.
So, yeah, everything on here, in my opinion, is proper, and that's also been signed off on by the Montgomery Public Schools and Pike Road Schools, because they both had levies that come on recently.
Okay.
Any other questions? That'll be next agenda.
Next, we'll hear from Cassandra Crosby and Ron Drinkard.
Good morning. Cassandra had been exposed to COVID. She wasn't feeling well. She went to the doctor yesterday. She tested negative, but the doctor did diagnose her with a bad case of the flu, gave her some meds, and told her to go to bed. So y'all have to put up with me today. You know, everybody'd always rather listen to Cassandra and look at Cassandra. I don't know why, but you have two bills before you today, both of which I think were discussed in depth at the recent legislative meeting.
Did somebody pass them out? Because I don't have mine. There was one.
There,
No on the screen, yeah.
That's hard to see. That's really hard to see.
Do you want to
I'll-
get a hard
I'll go
copy?
get you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But summarize the sheriff's bill, just summarize.
The sheriff's bill looks rather complicated, and it seems that it could have been cut down a little to simplify it. But what it says is that the sheriff would receive a $20,000 annual increase in pay, of which that $20,000 would be considered as an expense allowance until the end of this term. At the end of this term, then it would become salary. Now, this expense compensation would also be treated as normal compensation, which would be eligible for retirement benefits. There is another caveat to it, which, as y'all may recall, was the recommendation of one of the members, or a couple of members of our local delegation, I think, a House member and a Senate member, that they thought the sheriff was certainly deserving of this increase, but whoever comes in behind him might not have the experience and knowledge that he has. So they put in there a line that would make this available to a sheriff who had completed 2 full consecutive terms, and this additional $20,000 would begin at the beginning of that 3rd term. Now, Sheriff Cunningham would qualify for that, obviously, at this point. So if he runs for re-election next time, and if he is re-elected, then that $20,000 expense expense allowance provided by this bill would then become salary.
But you're saying for the rest of this term, which just started, so he's really got 4 years left in this current term, because his term he just got sworn in. So it would be expense allowance for now, but you had said that it would count towards his retirement. Did you say that?
Yes, sir, I did. That's something that in the past I have not been aware that could be done. However, Legislative Services does agree that that is possible at this time. So that expense allowance would be treated as normal income, which would count toward his retirement benefits.
Anybody got any other questions?
Ron, when does the legislative session begin this year?
I believe that'd be March 7th, March 6th, 7th, Monday
So-
and Tuesday.
A little less than a month
Yes,
from
ma'am.
now?
Yes, ma'am.
It's discouraging that we're just now seeing this proposed legislation less than a month before the session is set to begin. Did something happen? Is there a reason that this is so grossly delayed?
I'm so sorry. Bottom line is, I'll take full responsibility, but we did submit a timeline to the commission a while back, which had dates prior to this, and now I'm not sure why, for whatever reason, we weren't able to be scheduled for some of those dates.
Some of those dates, what do you mean?
A timeline as to when we'd like to meet with the commission, when we'd like to meet with the local delegation, those kind of things.
So those meetings just didn't happen, and that's why we're delayed once
I'm
again?
saying that's one of the reasons. Bottom line is, I still take responsibility.
But you know, I get on the same soapbox every year.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
You know, what's interesting for me is.
Sir?
What's interesting for me, Ron, is the commission just went through, all we wanted to do really was to have our expense, the expense portion of our money, of allowances, considered under RSA, because it was already being considered as regular income. We were paying income tax on the money. And we were told we couldn't do it. Instead, it was treated as if we were getting a pay increase. So it won't become effective until the next, because we can't give ourselves a raise.
I understand.
And when it really wasn't a raise, and now you tell me that all we had to do was get a piece of legislation saying it should be treated that way.
I don't think that's the case, Commissioner. I think that it would have to be if that allowance is going to be converted to salary at the beginning of the next term. Only at that point could it be considered compensation, as I'm told.
For now.
Sir?
For now. Well, we could have done that. I mean, we could have said, we'll continue to be that, but it will be considered on the RSA, and then the next term it'll be income. We could have done that.
Yes, sir. But when we did that expense allowance, I was told that we could not do that. Now,
Well,
just recently,
what changed, I wonder?
I don't know. But it apparently has changed with some other sheriffs across the state. And therefore, they changed it. But if it changed with the sheriff, it should change with anyone.
Yeah, it bothers me because, there were 59 other commissions that were under the RSA, and we had the toughest time trying to get under the RSA. And to this day, I don't know why. We had opposition in the local delegation. At first, we had opposition on this commission, when all but 6 or 7 other commissions are under it. And then to learn that we were told, well, you just got a raise. Well, we didn't really get a raise. All we did was transform, stop calling it expense and start calling it income, which is what it was really being treated as.
Yes,
That's
sir.
all we did.
Yes.
And we're told, and people are told that we gave ourselves, that we got a raise. We didn't. It just, that part bothers me, that wasn't brought to our attention, that we could have done it that way.
Yes, sir.
Unless you
And
can
if-
point to something that's changed since then.
Yes, sir. As I understand, it has, but now also, as I understand, we could not have come in and just changed your expense allowance to be treated as income, subject to retirement. It would only be if there was legislation to convert that allowance to salary at the beginning of the next term.
Are there any other questions
I
on this?
just want the expense allowance that we're talking about for the sheriff.
Yes, sir.
Normally, increases of any nature begins the next term in office. So we're saying that we want to allow it to be effective immediately based
The
upon.
expense allowance would be effective upon becoming a law.
Signed by the governor.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you see any problem down the road, just in case our sheriff is not here to complete his term of service and another sheriff's come in and we're trying to take that expense allowance back? Do you foresee any problem with that, just in case that scenario
We wouldn't be
turns out?
taking it back, it'd be a matter of law. It's not something that would be, as I understand, acted on by the commission. It would just be the law and that person running would not be eligible for that until serving for 2 full terms in the beginning of that 3rd term.
I see that being a little problematic.
That's different.
Yeah, but
That would be an appointment. I think, I mean, if something happened during this term, the sheriff goes out, the governor gets to appoint that.
He answered it different. He said if the sheriff isn't able to fulfill this current 4-year term for any reason.
As I
He
understand-
wasn't talking about the next election.
And
As
that's
I
an
understand,
appointment.
it would get
If you
revert back to
appointed,
the
you're appointed
salary.
into the position.
I think it would revert to the salary that he's currently earning, as I understand. Because the law would state that you'd have to have 2 full consecutive terms.
did we ever do any studies? I thought there was some mention of maybe seeing whether or not this particular increase lines up with similar counties of similar size and responsibility.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw a report on it.
You did?
I did, I saw a report
I
on it.
think something was distributed
I think
to
Ron
the
gave it out.
commission, yes, sir, on that.
Oh.
It showed all the salaries of the sheriffs across the state.
Send
Now,
that
there
to me,
were
please. I didn't see that.
probably 5 or 6 sheriffs that did not have their salary included in that for whatever reason. And those were some of the larger counties.
Could you send me that, please? I don't recall getting
All
it.
right, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the sheriff's bill? It'll be next agenda.
All right, the next item would
Now-
be a salary increase.
Commissioner,
Wait a minute.
they asked to waive rules.
Not on that one.
Did we not?
Yep,
Yes, sir.
for the advertising.
I mean, it's 2 more, I mean, the legislative session starts in a month. This is supposed to be advertised for 6 weeks.
Oh, so you're
No,
asking
ma'am,
to waive?
it's advertised for 30 days.
For 30
but-
days.
But the legislative session will continue on until June, so we.
Right, but it's the earlier the better, and, yeah, you don't wait until May.
We can waive
So,
rules, if y'all, if there's no objection to waive.
but that's the request, am I not,
That
am I,
would-
Yeah,
am
I
I
don't have an
right?
objection
The
to
request is to
requested
waive
that.
rules.
I
I
think
think
Sheriff
she-
would appreciate it, but I don't think he requested that.
Okay.
did he? He didn't request it to me, what?
He talked with Florence yesterday. I'm
Florence, did he
not sure.
request to waive rules on this one?
We talked about whether it was necessary in terms of advertising. That was the issue for,
Is there any questions on that? If it is, we
I
can.
don't have any
Well,
objection.
let's just waive rules and if it's in.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been the understanding with the legislature, the sooner you get your legislation
Sure,
in,
yeah.
the better the chances of it being successfully reviewed. So we're already behind the timeline, and we shouldn't be behind the timeline. We should not be sitting here on February 7th having to waive rules for proposed legislation. That should not happen, but it has, and I don't have any objection with waiving them in this instance. Not
Anybody-
happy about it, but
Any
I'll do
objection
it.
to waive rules on this item? Okay. We'll waive rules. Next one you got?
The next one is a proposed increase for the county commission. It would be a $12,000 annual increase. And this would not be as an expense allowance when it becomes law, as is with the sheriff's bill. It would only become law and become effective at the beginning of the next term.
I have no objection.
Any questions, comments on that one?
No objection from me on the waiving the rule.
Any objection to waiving rules?
Did you say you have an objection?
No objections? Okay. Thank you, Ron.
Yes, sir.
next we'll hear from Kim Hobbs with Central Alabama Fair Housing Authority.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
My name is Kimberly Hobbs. I'm the Executive Director of Central Alabama Fair Housing Center. And really, I just wanted to come here today to tell you a little bit about our center and the work that we do, hopefully so you can tell everybody that you represent about us also. So what we are is we are a small nonprofit organization for civil rights, and we've been here since 1995. So I'm really sorry if y'all don't know about us, and hopefully we can get the word out a little bit more. We are working to ensure equal housing opportunity throughout Central Alabama, regardless of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, family status, or disability. And we're dedicated to ending housing discrimination, enforcing fair housing laws, and educating individuals regarding fair housing rights and the laws. So to do that, our center takes a comprehensive approach. And we have three main programs. We have education and outreach, which we are trying to make sure that everybody is aware of their rights so that they can make sure to let us know if they feel like they have been violated. We conduct investigations into housing practices throughout our 29 county service area and make sure that everybody is abiding by the fair housing laws. And if we find discrimination, we actually have enforcement also, and we will help individuals, our centers, or anybody else who's been discriminated against to file fair housing complaints, either administratively with HUD or in the federal court systems. Okay. Sorry.
So do you have, are you,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. Are we experiencing discrimination in housing here in Montgomery?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. So, sorry. We have cases pending now, and there's a case that we have filed with HUD recently against one of the largest lending services in Alabama. One of the top 10 lending services is Fairway Independent Mortgage Company. Through a 3-year testing of their organization, all of our tests showed differential treatment to African American testers. In at least one of the tests, the person basically said, "I can't help you," and hung up on them. Whereas they were always very helpful to all of our white testers. So we are still finding discrimination every day. We are seeing largely, the majority of our discrimination that we find is based on disability. People refusing to accommodate their rules or policies for people with disabilities. And that tracks nationally. About 60% of all fair housing cases are disability, followed up by race being the second most populous discrimination. But it's occurring. We like to pretend like it is a historical problem, and a lot of our historical problems led to this. That's not, I don't think that's something that we can argue about, but it's a persistent problem. Today, people are still discriminating based on all of the protected classes, and it's something that we need to address. So we get calls in Montgomery County every day with people who either feel they've been discriminated against or where we see patterns of discrimination that we need to investigate. So yes, it's still very much a persistent problem here.
Do
Kim,
you,
thank you.
I was just curious, do you have a newsletter, or do you publish any of the results of your findings so that the public can be more aware of who's doing the discriminating?
It's something we're working on. We did have a newsletter. Unfortunately, we lost some of our funding, but we will be hopefully getting that back to be able to create that again and keep it up to date. And yes, our website is centralalabamafairhousing.org. We do try and keep up-to-date information there, and we will also update as we file the larger complaints.
I just one more question, Mr. Chairman. What size staff do you have, and what type of specialties?
So there's, we're very small right now. We would love to have more people. There are 5 of us. 3 of us are attorneys. Myself, Ms. Sandra Jackson over there is our staff attorney, and Ms. Faith Cooper, who actually started the organization and is my associate director. She works remotely from DC. We have an education and outreach specialist, and then we also have our investigations coordinator who helps to conduct all the investigations. And then we always need testers, who are people that we train to pose as interested home buyers or renters, and they are paid employees to make sure that we can conduct these investigations.
Well, Kim, thanks for coming. Sandra, thanks for being here, and you left us some information.
Yes.
For everybody. So thank you for sharing with us.
And thank you for having me.
Just one question.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You're a nonprofit, right?
Yes, sir.
How are you funded?
Predominantly through HUD funds.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Singleton, we have one other waive rule item to consider. It's almost 9:45. Do you want to proceed with our visitors, or?
Yeah, let's, can we do the executive session after our formal
Oh,
session?
yes.
Yeah, let's do that then. I hate
I-
to inconvenience but I'd rather go ahead.
Next, we'll hear from Jay Coleman.
Good morning, Commission. I'm here in my capacity as the co-CEO, Executive Director of Lazarus House Reentry Program, and we've introduced the program before. We are up and running to a degree, but without funding. We're in the process now. We have applied for 2 federal grants totaling $1.5 million. It's looking real good that we will be able to secure those funds. And then we'll be able to expand and do the things we need to do as far as personnel, hiring personnel, and bringing in more resources to serve the young adults here in Montgomery. Right now, we're in the process of serving about 12 individuals now that we are actually doing it. I guess we would say it's done pro bono, because we just have to do it, you know, at our leisure. We don't have any funding to do it. We're in the process now of trying to get our infrastructure in place. We're located at 300 May Street, which is the old Bush Science Building. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to get it ready to be able to receive participants. We got to do some infrastructure things for its Wi-Fi. We've got computers. We've got some computers donated, and but we've got to get all that upgraded and get everything up and running. So that's why I stand before the County Commission and to ask for some financial support to help us so we can continue to do this work that we started with the Dannon project, which left, but we are continuing on, still working with the courts, still getting referrals from the court for individuals that we can help. And I'm here to answer any questions. And we're also in the process of getting some funding from the city also.
Yeah, you were with the Dane.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, 'cause I remember we had
Yes,
this
sir.
opening
The grand opening,
Court Street or what?
South Perry Street.
Perry Street. I
Yes, sir.
remember that. It was on a Friday night.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I remember
Yes, sir.
that.
As a matter of fact, we just, since we started this project, we just realized that the building that the Dannon project was housed in is available. They moved out. And being on the start end of that project, I know the infrastructure that's put in that building already. That building was brought up to code, and the infrastructure was in place. So we're going to also look at exploring the possibility of getting that building. If we could get that building, that would take us a long ways as far as like trying to get the building on May Street up to par. But if we could get that building, it would be a great plus for us.
2 questions. How long before you'll know whether or not you're going to get the money from the federal grants? Whether or not you're going to get the grants, period.
I would think that we would know before June. Before June. I go in and check it every day, see what the status is. It was received, and and have these different things. It's showing it's moving up, so we're looking pretty good.
And what's your ask this morning?
I don't know. I always come in and be lowballing. I don't know. I guess I don't know how to ask.
You come in here, you get lowballed.
I get lowballed.
You have to,
so I guess I better start.
You have to have a number when you come.
Yes, sir. Well, we actually looking at about we need about at least $75,000 to $100,000 of infrastructure work that needs to be done, and that would also, because right now all the expenses are coming out of our pockets. We've got 6 kids who just recently completed their high school diploma, and they got the high school diploma through the Bridge Academy in Selma. And which we actually paid for that, and because there's no program in this area in Montgomery that we can enroll them in. So,
Do you have a budget for,
Say again?
do you have a budget?
Yeah, I have a budget, it's on the back
Let me see
page
it.
of that.
It's on that back page of the.
And this is the same budget that was presented with the grant information.
We will definitely look into this, look at your budget,
Yes, sir.
and we'll talk about it.
Thank you so
We'll let
much.
know something. Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
Florence, we got one other waiver item we need to get to.
Yes. That's a resolution of the Montgomery County Commission to approve waste disposal funding with the Montgomery Thrive Initiative.
Has anybody got any questions on that? I know we've talked a lot about wastewater and sewer.
Mr. Chairman, I was certainly happy to see that come up on the agenda in the form of a resolution. But that water and sewer seem to be a moving target because there are a number of entities that we have to depend on to really get where we need to be. Now, I know there's West Montgomery, Old Selma Road. I guess Commissioner Ziegler, you can speak to that. But because I've been speaking about Madison Park, we are all in this together. And we certainly want water and sewer for the people, particularly those who live in Montgomery. You know, we boast about $1 million a day in hotel receipts, $1 million a day in restaurant receipts, but yet we still have people living within the city limits that are on leaking septic tanks. And we've been advocating for this for just a long time, a number of years actually. So I'm happy to see that on the agenda, but unless we get the corporation of Montgomery Water Works and Sanitary Sewer Board and partner with ADEM, then this is just nothing more than just something else that we're talking about. So I would really, really want us to move forward and really get a commitment from Waterworks and Sanitary Sewer Board. They have to manage it. We don't have anyone else to manage it. And I understand if they don't agree to cooperate with us, then we're still back at ground zero. And in addition to that, ADEM is willing to help, but there's some criteria that has to be met before they will put any of the monies that they manage into this project.
Well, the Waterworks is not here and ADEM is not here, but we are here to move forward with this. And this is the first step, and it's a big step for us to carve this one out of the omnibus package that we looked at 2 weeks ago and move forward with this one. So this is the county commission making the commitment to move forward, and that will allow Terry and Levitate to move forward with those entities that you discussed.
Do we have the same commitment from the city in terms of the percentage that
I think
they?
they'll vote tonight. I think it's on their agenda for
Well,
tonight.
I'm certainly happy to see
But it's
it.
also, you mentioned inside the city limits, but we have some residents here not in the city limits, and there's many residents in the county that also have those same issues, and not just in the city of Montgomery. You were
We got to start somewhere, and I certainly represent those who are not in the city as well. And hopefully we'll put them in the study, particularly the Flatwood community. I see a number of people here this morning from Flatwood, so good to see you all.
So, any objection to waiving rules on this today?
No objection.
Okay, Florence, we'll waive rules.
All right, quickly, do you want to consider item number, I believe, 6, the county employee blood drives,
That'll be next agenda.
and also authorization of the travel allowance for the county attorney? That was included in the budget, but just need a formal authorization.
Any questions about that? No. Okay, next agenda.
All right, now we can hear from Jana Bailey with United Way.
I think y'all got handouts, but somebody need an extra. Good morning again. I sent y'all some information on Flatwood where we are currently post the November 30th tornado that came through Flatwood. And I'm not going to go into detail, but just very briefly, you know that this community was not covered by any other funding. And the only funds that have been assisting the residents in Flatwood have been from the community that have been donated to the United Way. Our board president also sent a letter
Just to confirm, what we have raised is $175,000, and also to put in writing that no administrative costs have been incurred by the United Way to oversee these funds and then provide for the residents. So we just wanted to make sure that was very clear. The other two documents that you'll see are where we are as of last Friday with the income and the expenses and the funding that we have left, which is about $50,000 of the $175,000 that we have raised. The money still continues to trickle in, and, and we're using it as best as possible. As of Friday, we still have 3 hotel rooms where we are putting residents that have absolutely no other place to go. So those are the first 2 documents. The other one is just kind of moving post the tornado. What else that we have realized is working with the residents and with Commissioner Sankey, who this is his district, is this area and this community was already lacking substantial housing, a lot of the residents out there, infrastructure, just what y'all were talking about, water and sewage problems. So moving even past the tornado, we have been aware that there are a lot more needs out there. And if you can look at some of these, I did too, and y'all know that math is not my strong suit, so, I did it best I can with my lack of talent there. But one of them are the repairs and the rebuild, and these are the residents that we have heard from so far. Initially, from EMA, we got 48 homes that they actually went out and inspected, and these are the residents that have come forward and actually need our help. Excuse me. So the first one you'll see is that there's, if you see that, I'll try to explain it, that there is zero, like there's no way to rebuild or repair their home. And what we've done in the second column is we have been working with Clayton Mobile Homes to get the best deal possible with mobile homes to put out there. These obviously are brand new. They're very high energy efficient, insulated. We also found during this time that residents were paying upwards of $400, $500, $600 a month for electricity, a lot of times going over 2 and 3 months where they could not meet that because of the wooden houses they were living in that were very, very old, that were not insulated, and then were destroyed either all the way or partially by the tornado. So the trailers or mobile homes that we're looking at are energy efficient, will give these residents, which I've also stated, this is a very, it's an older community, it's their home, their community, and it's where they have lived for generations. So the second row is looking at what it would cost to put everyone into those that cannot be repaired or rebuilt, put them into a brand new mobile home. And then the left side is if we didn't do anything, we just did a few repairs, and then some, of course, are rebuilding their homes. I have initially done the initial application process for the ARPA funds, and when I added this all up the first time, please forgive me because I'm not math, it came out to $1.3 million, but then when I went back and did more math and more doing some averages of costs that people had sent in with their estimates, it came up to a little bit less than that. So if we were to do everything, it looks like it would be about $781,000 less what United Way has already spent, or I hate saying United Way because it's a community of, it would be about $680,000. And we are asking for the ARPA funds. Don't know where we are with that. We know we did the initial grant letter, and this, like I said, is moving more away from the tornado and really addressing some other great needs in that community. Like I said, so we're asking half of the funding from ARPA from the County Commission and half from the City of Montgomery, and I'll be presenting that tonight at the City Council.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Jana, for the work that you are doing with River Region United Way, and I just want to thank all my constituents and the people in Flatwood for your endurance and for being patient. we're certainly working with you and hoping to get you in stable housing. Now, a couple of questions I wanted to know. The people that are in the hotel, based upon our last meeting, I thought we were trying to get maybe rental units just to save a little money. I thought we was trying to get rental housing.
Yes, and that is correct. We are looking at, we've got 2 residents right now that are in, one is in an apartment that we pay 6 months in advance for that apartment. Another one is an elderly gentleman that we've rented a home for him for the next 6 months as well. We have been looking, we're trying to stay around $500, $600, and all of y'all know that affordable homes in this community, that's also been one of the challenges, is getting residents into affordable homes, and finding something $600 or less is very challenging. So the apartment complex that we have one elderly woman that we paid for does not have any vacancies right now. And it looks like it may be March or April before they have any vacancies. You know, we continue to look, but that is, you know, that's kind of where we are right now as far as that goes.
And I know, Mr. Chairman, we have a critical home repair. At least we decided that portion of the ARPA funding could be used for critical home repair. If we could move forward with getting something in the form of a resolution, that might help the people. I think we have $3 million allocated to that, or that's proposed allocation to that. I think if that was already available, perhaps we could address some of the critical home repair with some of that funding. And so is there any way we could maybe expedite that process at some point, assuming that all the members of this committee, of this commission agree with that, because that's been kind of on hold for a long
Yeah,
time.
that's something, ask Terry, she's back there nodding her head, ask Terry to work on for us for the next meeting, have a resolution similar to what we did today. We can always waive rules too, if we have to, next
Yes,
2
sir.
weeks from now, but get that resolution, if that's one of the items that we all agreed upon that we want to do, along with the city. And so, any other questions for Janet?
I just want to say, well, no questions, but as soon as if the donated revenue, I suppose that we can still depend upon that?
Yes, well, yes, we hadn't got it yet, but it has been committed, and they've always come through.
Yes,
So
sir.
they had a computer software glitch with the donor, and so that money should be here, and I think by the time we have our next meeting.
Okay, well, I'm committed to, I think that's a $51,000 manufactured home. I'm committed to purchasing that home for whatever family might be next in line for that. I also have a check here for you. I'm continuing to ask people in the community for money, and I have a check here for you to help with those expenses. And I just want to, let me say this about FEMA. A lot of people were concerned, and I'm just learning after speaking with the gentleman over at Emergency Management Agency. I believe his name is Gary.
Mr. Barron?
Yes. And he was explaining to me yesterday that in order for FEMA to, in order to qualify for FEMA, it has to be total loss of the structure, and it has to be uninsured. And so we did not meet that criteria by a long shot, I don't suppose, because
Some of the homes did, but it had to do with the total cost. It has to reach a certain financial requirement for FEMA. So even though, yes, there were homes that were completely destroyed that did not have insurance, but the whole storm did not cause damage enough to require, or to meet FEMA. So that's why these residents are not getting any other additional funding.
okay. But we're going to continue to work, and I believe everything's going to be okay.
Okay. Can I ask one question? So this $3 million that you were talking about, is that part of ARPA? Is that part of the application that I have put in, or is this additional funding that is just designated to homes in Montgomery that may be available quicker than the ARPA funds, that we could move forward with doing this, or how does that, is that totally different? That's something I need to come back and ask for again?
No, the critical care money is ARPA money that hasn't been designated yet. We hadn't even approved it yet or done a resolution, but that's something I think we probably have a majority maybe on that to move forward with that. But that would be money that would be set aside to help very, very low income people, not just due to tornadoes or anything, but just normal housing in Montgomery County.
Okay. I guess, do I need to do anything from this point on? I just need to keep bugging y'all and seeing when we can do that.
That money will be competed for, so
Yeah, we're very
you just need to, once the resolution is passed, it's a joint city-county deal, and there'll be other people competing for that money, so you'll have to. It's $3
Okay.
million.
I guess that's what my question was, that the other application I put in is not the same as this 3 million, is that right?
No, you applied to ARPA, right, for ARPA funds, right?
Yes.
These are ARPA funds.
Okay.
But they're for a project that was, when we decided to do this project, we had the tornado. So
Okay.
it's for everybody. It's for dilapidated houses in Montgomery, period. So
Okay.
you'll be competing with those areas for the
Okay.
funds.
I
It's
understand.
not just funds for Flatwood. That's what I'm saying. So I don't want you to be misunderstood to say, we're saying we're gonna give you $3 million. That's not it.
No,
We're gonna make $3 million available for the kind of work that you need to have done there, and there'll be competition for it.
And do I need to do another application?
No,
Okay, so my application is already
I
in
don't
there.
know what the process
No.
is gonna be
I
once they
think
set it up.
You and
Terry
Terry
can
need to
answer
get together, because we're talking
Yeah,
about two different
Sherry,
things.
You and Janet get together, because we're running behind, and
Yeah.
so y'all can get together on that.
Okay.
Thank you, Janet, for coming.
All right, thank y'all very much.
All right, we're gonna take a,
Um,
oh, what else?
I think Commissioner Walker wanted to discuss one other item, or do you want to?
Thank you. We had discussed, Chairman, the leadership, Montgomery, and the funding. We had a 3-year funding cycle for them, and that is, we're done with that. It ended in 22, 23. 23 is the last one. So now I'm proposing that we reboot another cycle, and we've had some advice from finance on how we might do that.
I agree with the finance advice.
What do we need to do to formalize that?
Is everybody aware of what we're talking about?
No.
Okay. Yeah,
Will you please?
The commitment that we made, I think, 23,000 is the one we would owe right now, and then a new commitment. But in the budget.
Per year for 3 years.
Right, we have an item in there for 12.5 that used to go to emerge, which that's separate now, and I left it in the budget, so I suggest using the 12.5 towards Leadership Montgomery, because the chamber had been giving it to them, and then add 10.5. This year, we have in-house miscellaneous appropriation, use 10.5 we'll go ahead and use it this year, but in the future, look at putting that in the budget specifically.
So we'll do that for this current expenditure, and then we can talk details during budget hearings, what we want
Right.
to look moving forward. But that gets the 23 that we had already committed to now.
And I think since we have already approved that commitment, I can go ahead and
Yeah.
pay that one.
Okay.
Sure, can you make sure everybody gets that?
Yep.
If Commissioner Harris and Commissioner Ziegler, if they have
Right.
not gotten that.
Are there any questions about, so we're going to go ahead and do a 23 now, and then we'll talk about the future during budget hearings. Is that good? Dan, you
Yeah.
good with that? Okay.
Okay. All right,
So
we're gonna take a 3-minute.
do we need to take any formal action on that? Or we already did. We already did because we already approved it, so it's done. Okay,
All right,
thank
we
you.
got a 3-minute recess at 10:10 sharp. We're gonna start the.
10:10
formal session.
sharp.